Welcome back to Learning with Miss B. It is a cool morning today. I hope all of you are remembering to dress appropriately for the weather so that you are nice and warm when you go outside. The sun is shining, but it's awfully deceiving. It's awfully chilly outside. I hope you wear the right pieces of clothing to keep warm. Well, in today's story, boys and girls, we're going to talk about how animals keep warm in the winter. They don't have leg warmers or headbands or mittens or scarves to keep them warm. I wonder if they drink hot chocolate to keep warm. This book is called, Do Frogs Drink Hot Chocolate? How Animals Keep Warm. Today we're going to read this book and find out how different animals keep warm. So, I'd like you to pay close attention because after the book, you are going to have a task. Let's see what you remember and what you learned from this book on how different animals use their adaptations and features to help survive in the winter months. Do frogs drink hot chocolate? How animals keep warm. Now, this story was written by Etta Kaner and illustrated by John Martz. An illustrator, boys and girls, is a person who draws the pictures, and the author is the person who writes the story. Let's get started. When it gets cold out, do animals turn up the heat? No! So how do they survive the chilly weather? Let's find out. Do frogs drink hot chocolate to keep warm? No! Some frogs don't even try to keep warm. Actually, this is pretty cool. Let's check this out. The Alaskan wood frog turns into a frogsicle. Ha! Get it? A frogsicle. Like a popsicle? A frogsicle. It spends the winter with most of its body frozen. And when the air warms up in the spring, the frog warms up too. I bet you didn't know that. That's something new that I learned today. I had no idea that frogs turn into frogsicles and then they can wake up and thaw out in the springtime and they're still okay. What about penguins? Do penguins snuggle with a friend? Yes, actually they do. Get this. In winter, thousands of emperor penguins come together in a giant huddle. It's warm in the middle, but cold on the outside. So what do? Well, the penguins shuffle. Get it? The penguin shuffle like happy feet. Taking small steps, they slowly change places, and that way, they all get a turn in the middle. That is pretty creative. That's being inclusive too, isn't it? What about butterflies? Do butterflies sunbathe? Yes! Well, actually they do. Butterflies can't fly if they're too cold, and they can't make their own heat either. So what do? They catch some rays. If it's cold, a butterfly will sit on a rock or a log and stretch out its wings, and then the sun warms up its flight muscles, and it's ready to flutter away. That's probably why when you see butterflies, you see them sitting with their wings spread on leaves because they're sunbathing. Well, what about foxes? Do foxes wear earmuffs? No! Arctic foxes especially have small furry ears, and that fur helps, but so does the size of the ears. The ears stick out into the cold air, and a fox's body can lose heat that way. Small ears don't stick out as much as big ears, so they lose less heat. Speaking of foxes, Miss Badia saw a red fox this morning at Heart Lake while I was walking my dogs. It was beautiful, and it had small ears like the Arctic fox. What about turtles? Do turtles jump up and down to keep warm? Nope. Many turtles will burrow into the mud and dead leaves at the bottom of a pond. The water there is cold, but at the bottom of the pond, it'll never freeze. It usually stays at about 39 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 4 degrees Celsius, or to be exact, 3.8 degrees Celsius. That's a perfect temperature for turtles who like to snooze while they wait for spring to come. What about polar bears? I bet you they are the experts at keeping warm. Do polar bears build homes? Yes, they do. Pregnant polar bears build dens, but not with wood and hammers like us humans. Instead, a mama bear uses her sharp claws to dig out a cave in the snow. And when it's finished, she crawls inside to have her babies. The den keeps them all safe and warm until spring. well. These are pretty cool facts, aren't they? These are pretty cool adaptations and behaviors that wild animals have to survive in the winter months. What about whales? Do whales wear snowsuits? Nope. Whales have blubber. Whales have blubber under their skin, and this layer of fat keeps their body heat in and the cold out. Whale blubber can be, get this, boys and girls, whale blubber can be up to 12 inches. That's as long as 30 centimeters, as long as a school ruler thick. It also stores energy, so whales can keep going for a long time without eating. So the amount of blubber that they have on their skin is as thick as a ruler, 30 centimeters wide. Oh my goodness. One of Miss Body's favorite animals is coming up next. Squirrels. How do squirrels keep warm? Do they curl up in blankets? Well, yes, kind of. They do, sort of. Squirrels have built-in blankets. Do you know what part of their body would be considered their built-in blankets? Yeah, their tail. When it's cold, they wrap their long bushy tails around themselves so their body heat won't escape. And that's not all. As the temperature drops, less blood flows into their tails, and instead it stays in their bodies to help keep them warm. Take a look at that. What about monkeys? Monkeys, do they take hot baths to keep warm? Well, yes, they do. Japanese macaques love to take warm baths. There are places in Japan where hot water bubbles up naturally from the ground and it forms pools. After playing in the snow, the macaques will jump into these hot pools and warm themselves up. Clever little fellas. Now, you may never have heard of this animal before. Tuatara. Do tuateras sit by a campfire? Nope. What kind of animal is a tuatara? Tuatara's bodies can't make enough heat, but birds' bodies can. So what does a tuatara do? It has a sleepover with a little bird called a fairy prawn. The heat from the bird helps keep the tuatara from getting too chilly overnight. Have you ever seen a tuatara, boys and girls? Miss Body has never seen one before. I wonder if after the story somebody could look up on Google or in an encyclopedia, if you know what that is, and find out where in the world a tuatara lives. Take a look at this picture. Looks like a lizard, doesn't it? What about honeybees? Do honeybees use teamwork to stay warm? Yup, they indeed do. In the winter, honeybees form a cluster around a queen bee. Then they shiver together. By vibrating their wing muscles, they raise the air temperature in their hive. This keeps the queen toasty warm. How do the bees have energy for all of this shivering? Well, they eat a lot of honey. What do birds do to keep warm? They don't drink hot chocolate. So do they fly south? Well, the answer is kind of yes and no, boys and girls. In winter, some birds fly south in search of food and warmth. Other birds survive wintry weather by eating as much as possible. This gives their bodies enough energy to keep warm. Feathers help too. When they're fluffed up, they trap warm air next to a bird's skin. And you may never have heard of this animal before, a guanaco. Do guanacos wear leg warmers to keep warm? Yep, kind of. Guanacos have thick woolly coats, but there is very little fur on their legs. So when it's cold outside, chilly guanacos lie down with their legs tucked under their bodies, and that's what keeps them nice and warm. Another animal for us to look up to find out where in the world guanacos live, because I don't think they're in Canada. Now, boys and girls, all of the animals in this book have special ways to survive the cold. But what about you? What do you do to keep warm? Do you drink hot chocolate? That's it for today's Read Aloud, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed today's book, Do Frogs Drink Hot Chocolate? And I hope you learned a few new facts about animals and how they keep warm in the winter.